Debbie, Denver, Colorado,
Yes.
KRKS. How are you?
I'm good.
Welcome to the program, and how could we help you?
Well, not too long ago, a couple months ago, I found out that my 32-year-old son has a son that is 5.
Wow.
He's never seen him. He's not married to the mother, of course.
Did he know all along he had a son?
No one, I did not know.
Did he know?
Did not tell me.
Did he know from the beginning?
What?
Did your son know he had a son, or did someone call him up 5 years later?
No, he knew. He has known for 5 years.
Okay.
When she found out she was pregnant, she told him, and he didn't believe her, and so he didn't want to have anything to do with her. She lives in another state. 3 years ago, she sent him papers, and now he's paid child support. He has still yet never seen the son.
Okay. What's the question
I
for
don't
us
know.
then?
Well, I don't know what my part is. I now have a grandson. Do I contact her and see the child? What do I do?
Mm-hmm. Well, I'll tell you what I would do if it was my son. I would probably sit him down and say, son, you have a son, and you can be part of furthering the fatherless generation. You can contribute to that problem, or you can be the father to your child. That's probably what I would start with.
Okay.
Where does your 32-year-old son live?
He lives in Denver. We're very close.
You're very close,
What
and
is-
he has a child, and you didn't know about it.
Yes, it's terrible. It's extremely
Do you-
painful.
do
well,
you think
but
you're
what I'm
close?
saying is, I would question the very close thing.
You feel close to him, but I don't think he's close to you.
Yeah, you're probably right.
And it's hard for you to give that up.
Yes, it is.
Does he live with you?
No,
Okay.
he's married.
Okay.
He's married?
Oh.
Yes, he is. She just found out when I did.
There you go.
Now, how long has he been married? Please say less than 5 years.
2 years.
Okay.
Good.
That would have been a bigger problem, right?
How's his wife taking the news?
She wants to have nothing to do with the child or the mother, of course. Their marriage is pretty rocky. She's extremely controlling, so they have their difficulties. They've gone to counseling. I don't see either one of them too often anymore, just because of her being. She doesn't really want to have a lot to do with us either. So it's been a very difficult situation.
So to quote Steve Arterburn from some months back, is there a custody battle for your son?
No.
You
Well,
versus
she's got
versus the
custody.
wife? No. You versus the wife having a custody battle over your son.
No, not really. No.
Okay. So your strength, your dominance in his life is
Okay with his wife?
Well, yes. Well, we don't get along very much at all.
who? You and your son?
You and the son's wife.
Right.
What you were asking. She's kind of saying maybe that is. I think she's actually saying it's true. There's a problem there.
Yeah.
She's too
Yes,
involved
there
in her
is a
son's
problem there.
yeah,
Yes.
too involved in the son's life.
Is that what you're saying?
Yes.
You're too involved in the son's life?
Oh, no.
She
I am
thinks
not
that.
too involved. No, I've let him go. I mean, I've
But-
definitely.
But his
he's
wife thinks you
32.
are. But his wife thinks you are.
Well, I
Well,
don't
why
know
don't-
if she
why don't
really
you get-
thinks
okay.
I am.
Why don't you get along with his wife?
Well, I don't know. She really doesn't want to have anything to do with most of my family. I don't know why. They spend all the holidays with her family. They don't come and visit very often. We've pretty much just had to let go. I'll see him at lunchtime. We'll go to lunch every now and then. We talk on the phone, but it's not like we see each other very often. I don't call him very often. I've
Yeah.
tried to let him
Okay.
go,
Well, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
and I should. He's 32.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, that's good.
So your question is, what role should you play?
Right. I mean, do I contact this lady and tell her I'll help them in any way, or I want to be the grandmother? Do I just let it go? I mean, I can't quit thinking of him.
Yeah. Well, the big question is, what is best for that little boy?
Well, like I've told Ryan, what's best is that he's involved in his life.
Right.
And
And
then
that would
and then-
be maybe the most, if you're going to spend energy somewhere and you can't do everything at once, as Steve has said, whatever energy you have to get him to be involved in this kid's life, I think is a good expenditure
Yeah.
of energy.
Okay.
And just to have a grandmother walk into his life, and then I
At
think that could be
5.
very confusing at 5.
Yeah, I do too. I agree with you. Yeah.
But one of your son's biggest problems is that he can't differentiate himself from his wife. His wife's opinions prevail. So the question is, can he be strong enough, separate enough from his wife to make an individual decision, I want to see my son?
Right.
And what you're telling me is, no, she's in the driver's seat. She's possessive, she's controlling, she separates him out. And that's quite the power struggle right there, isn't it?
Yes.
So maybe that's part of the question.
We've
Yes,
given
it
you
is.
we've given you some information that might be helpful in talking with your son and helping understand why he doesn't want to be involved with the little boy.
Okay, I'll try to do that.
Yeah, as I think about this, your son, he's just not stepping up to the plate in a lot of different
I know.
ways.
Right.
I
Right.
understand. Yes.
And so I think the best role that you could play would be to tell him that and say, look, it's your life. You can live your life any way you
Mhm.
want. There's not much I can do. You're 32 years old. But what I would say to you is this. There are some ways in which you're avoidant. You're not dealing with your wife. She controls you. You have nothing to do with your family because she doesn't want you to. You've left this kid out there, to grow up without any kind of fatherly involvement. And I can't make you go do any of this, but I just want to tell you, you might want to go think about what you're going to do about it. And I don't think you're going to change it by yourself, son. I think you need to go find some good help, because that's sort of what I see. And then it's his life.
Right.
You know what often happens when a guy is so controlled by her is he ceases to exist in her mind, and she often strays beyond that because there really isn't a husband. It's just a reflection of herself. We'll take a break and we'll come back. I want to tell you a story about how somebody handled a child born out of wedlock in a little different way. And your phone calls. Okay, I got to tell you a story. It does apply to this a little bit. It's not exact same thing, but there was a couple in ministry, and they had a marriage ministry, and they had been in ministry for 20 years. And all of a sudden, she starts getting attention from one of the people that worked in the ministry. And before it was all over, she ends up in an interracial affair. She goes to her husband and tells him the bad news, that she's been in an affair. And he forgives her, requires that they go to counseling and all of this. 30 days later, she has to go to her husband and tell him that she's pregnant with the other guy's child. This guy goes to his pastor and says, "What do I do?" He says to his pastor, "All my friends are saying you should have nothing to do with this child. Have that child adopted out, or every time you see this child, he's going to be a reminder of the affair that your wife had." And the pastor said what I said to her. Well, you can be part of the fatherless generation, or you can be the father to a little boy that needs one. He adopted that little boy, and he gave that little boy his name.
Mm-hmm.
He was Junior, and it was an interracial affair, and so obviously
Wow.
people knew
Mm-hmm.
that it was not his child. Now that's a different perspective.
Mhm.
There's your transcendence.
Well, as you were talking about the pastor's advice, it's like, what about King Solomon?
Hmm. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Every time you look at him, I mean, where did he come from?
Right.
He came from
Result of an affair.
result of the previous affair, down a wrong road. So it's just, see that we've had, I guess, a lot of calls that are situations where somebody, the previous discussion about forgiveness and the mother. I think the Bible kind of gives us a picture of sort of the sky's the limit on this one dynamic of don't be overcome by evil, but overcome evil with good.
Mm-hmm.
And we can live our lives, saying, I'm going to treat people how they treat me. If they're good to me, I'll be good back to them. But if they're not, then have nothing to do with them, right? And I understand there's reasons and limitations to all of what I'm saying.
Sure.
Reality kind of limits. But I think the direction is set. The direction is set, however far you climb up that ladder in life, to be able to give back to life and to give back to others past what life and others have given to you. And that's when we really become a redemptive force. And that's just a great example of it.
Yeah.
Not that everybody would be called to that, but
No.
that's the direction.
Yeah. I remember him saying, too, I gave him my name so he would never be confused who his father is.
That's a neat story.
I love that story. All right,
Steve,
we got a final caller. Yes.
Just a quick comment.
Better be quick.
I'll be very quick. If I were in Debbie's shoes
Yeah.
and I had an irresponsible son and an irresponsible daughter-in-law that
Yeah.
did not want to step up to the plate, I would want to know my grandson.
Yeah. That's the dilemma. It's a
I would
tough
want
one.
to know who my
Yeah.
grandchild is on planet
It's
Earth.
tough.
I
Yeah.
would. As a grandfather,
I
say
would
that.
go for the boy getting involved, and probably if that didn't, then I would probably have to go see my grandson.
But at some point, I mean, as much as you want that, you always have to ask the question, what's in the best interest of the child?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And sometimes that might be a timing thing.
Yeah.
Maybe,
12 years old might
who
be
knows?
better than 5.
Yeah.